Привет! Сегодня мы с Крисом будем отвечать на ваши вопросы из Инстаграма. И мы будем говорить по-английски, поскольку мы с ним общаемся по-английски, и я потом добавлю русские субтитры. So, hi everyone again. This is Chris. He's my boyfriend. We've been together for a little bit over 1 year, but we'll just start and go through your questions from Instagram. So, questions to you first. Where are you from? How old are you?
General questions.
Yeah.
So I'm 36 and I'm from Sydney, New South Wales.
And a lot of people are wondering about your nationality, I guess because you're mixed. So, what's your background?
So my mother's Chinese Malay and my father's English.
And me, well, no one asked, but I still want to say that my dad is Korean and my mom is Russian. So we are both 50-50, like white Asian. Are we married? And if not, are we going to get married?
Well, for me, we're not married. It would be nice to be married one day, but for me, there's no rush. It doesn't mean anything really for me if you're dedicated, so there's no rush, but hopefully one day.
Well, I have been married already and it didn't work out, so I feel like I used to really want to get married for some reason, and now I feel like relationships are more important than the status in your passport, so I'm also kind of over just wanting to get married for the sake of marriage. Next question, how do you meet the right person for yourself?
Well, I feel like I've only met the right person now at 36. And I think you change a lot as you grow and experience different things. So I feel it's important that you wait. Like, don't be in a rush, wait. Travel, see things and do things and grow as a person, and let it be obvious to you once you have that person in front of you. You shouldn't have to compromise so much and be in such a rush to find the right person. It should be screaming in your face that it's the right person.
So you will just know it, basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I feel now. It's hard for me to say that before I met you, but now I have. That would be what I would say.
Yeah, and I'd say you just need to focus on yourself first, and you need to figure out what's important for you, and learn to be happy on your own before you try to get into relationships. Maybe. Are you planning to have children? And if yes, are they going to be vegan? How are you going to raise them? And what kindergartens or schools you'd want them to go?
Wow, that's a lot. Well,
what? We did speak about it. So we want to have children. Despite the state of the world right now, I still want to have children, at least one, maybe more. And we also spoke that we might want to adopt a kid once we've had one of our own. And as far as being vegan, of course, I want them to be vegan, but I'm not sure Chris is so happy about this idea. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay as long as they don't miss out on anything.
You mean nutritionally?
Yeah, as far as nutrition, and I've still got a lot to learn though. Like, I'm still learning about, veganism and everything that goes with it. So I'll just go along for the ride for now, and when we have an issue that crops up, we'll have to discuss it.
Okay, and how are we going to raise them? Did you give any thought to that? I personally want to homeschool, and we argue about it a little bit because Chris wants them to go to regular school because he thinks it's better for social skills.
Yeah, I definitely feel like for myself and my friends with the schooling in Australia, I found that, there's a lot of time being wasted in, learning things that you don't really need. Like, especially today when you've got so much access to anything you want. on the web. But I do think social interaction is important. And I found that I gained a lot from school, just, involving myself with other people and learning a lot about myself through other people. So I think that's really important. That's what I would want at this point.
Yeah, and from why I want our kids to be homeschooled is because I read a couple of books on it and it seems like a very attractive option. But honestly, I haven't met anyone who's been raised by homeschooling, so I don't have a hands-on experience and I don't really know how it's gonna be. So I think we'll just discuss it later in more detail.
Probably right after this video, actually.
Maybe, yeah. All right, next one. What's your motto in life?
My motto in life? This is...
If you have one at all.
I don't think I could put it down to a motto, but as I get older, I'm finding that I'm more aligning with the idea that I'm just trying to be a better version of myself each day.
Okay.
So
that would be your...
Yeah, I suppose...
Just trying to do your best every day in everything you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I also don't really have it consciously, but I would say maybe being present, just focusing on your breath all the time, or as often as you remember to do it. Yeah, it doesn't sound like very exciting motto maybe, but it does help to live a bit more consciously. Next one. What do you do for a living and do you enjoy what you do?
Yeah, that's another good question. I've really only found what I actually enjoy doing recently, actually. I've just started learning how to trade stocks on the stock market. And yeah, I enjoy it. Well, I enjoy learning about it so far. But, I've had about 16 or 17 different jobs previously, like lots of different ones. And I didn't really enjoy them. I just did it because everyone else had a job and I should have a job. So, yeah, it feels pretty good to find something that you're a little bit passionate about.
And I have been a graphic designer for the last few years, just doing freelance jobs and traveling around. And now I recently, as you might know, opened my shop where I sell t-shirts with my design. And I also do some social media marketing. So I kind of have a lot of few small income sources and still trying to find it. But I really do like drawing and I really am passionate about veganism and more sustainable lifestyle. So I'm trying now to combine these passions into something that would bring me income. Next question, where do you plan to live?
Well, that's an interesting question. So between both of us, we've done a lot of traveling, I would say, like more than most.
Well, I've been to 17 countries and you...
I'm on 28. So between the both of us, there's certain aspects about different countries that we love. But you have to be realistic as well. If it boils down to it, probably your parents are in Russia and my parents are in Australia. So it would be ideal if we could afford it to have a place in Australia and Russia and kind of move between both of them. But, it really depends on your income at the end of the day.
We haven't decided at the moment. We don't know right now.
But I do love Russia up until this point.
Oh, actually,
as a side note.
That's a good transition point to the next question. What surprised you in Russia the most?
Well, I have to say this, and I've said it, we've talked about it before, but I really have to say that I'm really happily surprised by the people.
What do you mean?
Well, my idea of the people in Russia, and this is going to sound a little silly, but the only idea that we've got down in Australia is from movies. And unfortunately, Russians are portrayed as not the good guys. And everything's cold and quite bleak, and everyone's got a very stoic face. And it's not like that at all. Like, you guys are just like us, especially the younger generation. Everywhere I've gone and they can see that I'm definitely not from here, I'm greeted with smiles, and people understand that, because my Russian's really bad still, they're trying to communicate in English. I really like this place, and it's the people that have made this place really comforting to me. So that's been the number one thing that stands out for me.
Okay, and then kind of narrowing it down a little bit, what do you like about Novosibirsk? Because so far Chris has only been to Novosibirsk in Russia. We didn't go anywhere else.
Well, I think it's important, like coming from Ubud in Bali, it was quite compact and it's very crowded in areas. And to be honest, after staying there for 8 months, we had to get out. Coming here, sort of after that, has been so nice because there's so much space. Like you take it for granted that you've got space. But when that's taken away from you, like anything, you really can enjoy it.
So you say you like space in Novosibirsk?
Yeah.
Did anything else surprise you? Or
the environment. And how long the sun stays up. It comes through my bedroom window quite early, and there's still light at like 9 or 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite surprising. I've never experienced that before.
So what do you mean? Why is it like? What do you have in Australia?
We don't get sunlight for as long. It's dark by say 6 o'clock, and it comes up around 7 o'clock.
And it stays the same throughout the year?
No, we have different time periods as well, summer and winter, but it's not as dramatic as here. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you think of the city center?
In Novosibirsk?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't, honestly, we didn't get a chance to really explore it. If I'm going to be honest about it, at first glance, it looks a little bleak, like there's not a lot of color, but on that note, that when we went in there, it was quite smoky, I think, from the fires.
Yeah.
So when we were in there, it wasn't looking its best. So I think I'd have to go back in and, I'm sure every city has secrets and nice things that evolve its character a bit more. And I think I have to see that before I could give a definite answer.
Okay, so it's still too early to say.
Yeah, I could sum it up.
All right, let's move backwards a little bit and say how we met.
How do we meet? Tinder. That's it. That's how we met. I was in Ubud. Yulia was in Ubud. I was coming at the end of a holiday. We were texting through Tinder, and that's how we met. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Chris decided to prolong his stay for a few days, and then flew back to Australia, and then we were apart for a few months, and then...
Oh yeah, a really long story short, I was at work and I just decided to quit. I thought,
And moved to Bali.
Yeah, and moved to Bali. Life's too short. I'm 36 now, and so it's time to make a move. And yeah, I just quit my job and then came to Bali. And that's the end of it.
Yeah, we pretty much straight after we moved in together and stayed there for almost a year. And then I came back here, and Chris had to go back to Australia, so we stayed apart for a few months again. But now we're back together. So, is Chris vegan? And if not, how do you compromise?
Actually, I probably have to give Yulia credit here because she's been really flexible and really understanding in knowing that I've had 35 years of eating meat, all kinds. And so no, the question is, like, the answer is no, I'm not vegan, but I've reduced my meat consumption down probably by 95%, I would say. And in Ubud, I was 99% of the time just eating vegetables and fruit, which I'm happy to.
Just eating plant-based?
Sorry, plant-based, yeah, plant-based foods. Yeah, so that's...
Well,
that's
how do you feel about veganism? Do you feel like it's the right ethical choice? Are you planning to become vegan later?
Yeah, for me, it's very strange. I mean, 35 years of programming in one way, and then to say, hey, and try and flip that upside down is really hard for me. So I think it's going to work better if I take my time and slowly work into a better habit. I feel for myself, if I change something that dramatic that quickly, I'll probably end up failing. I'll probably end up giving up and just going back completely eating meat again. So yeah, I want to become vegan eventually if it's good for me, which I think it is at this time. But it will take some time.
Yeah. I actually think that it's a more sustainable approach when you don't drop it super quickly and you just slowly learn about it, slowly change your habits. Because this way you will, like, it will not be a shocking experience for your body, and you will have a much higher chance of staying on a completely plant-based diet. So I'm fine with Chris transitioning slowly, but the way we do it practically, we don't have anything not vegan at home. Well, actually we did have here in Novosibirsk, because Chris wanted to try some traditional things like pelmeni and stuff like that. So we did buy it a few times, but normally I don't want to keep anything non-vegan at home, and then if he wants to eat something different, he just eats it in a cafe. And this way it's really better for me, because I don't have to see anything animal related at home. But I'm not sure if Chris is okay with that, so tell me now.
I'll tell you now on the camera. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Like, do you not feel restricted? Would you like to have more animal products at home as well, or?
I think that's where the guidelines come in. If I have animal products at home, I'm probably just going to go back to my diet like I was it in Australia. So no, I'm glad that there are some boundaries set for me. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
All right. Okay. So are you, Chris, as passionate about reducing single-use plastics as Yulia? And what's your, take on it?
Yes, I am. I definitely am. And I think that even if you don't feel like you are at the moment, it would only take you a very short period of time to be at a beach like we were in Bali, and see how much plastic actually gets washed up on the shore.
That's crazy.
It's quite sickening. And I'm quite surprised by that, because prior to meeting Yulia, I knew about it, but I didn't really feel like it was a problem because it wasn't in my face. But when you're actually sitting on a beach, like it's supposed to be paradise, it's advertised as paradise, and you have more plastic than you've ever seen in your life on that beach, and you don't even want to swim because there's that much plastic in there. I mean, that's just an issue whether you feel it or not, that I think you actually have to just take action as best you can to reduce it. Like, we just have to, that's the way we have to go, because there's an issue. So yes.
How do you usually spend time together? How do you keep being interested in each other and not get bored?
Well, I suppose it's pretty early still. I mean, it's only been 1 year and 2 months, and we've spent a lot of that time away from each other. So the interest is still there. We may be still in that honeymoon period. I don't know. But definitely we have our own interests, and we pursue those interests, like my study and Yulia's channel. So we pursue those things, and whatever we're interested in, we get quite involved with those, and we keep those lives quite separate. So when it comes to, I don't know, sitting down, talking with each other, we have a lot to say. We have new topics to talk about, and we debate a lot of things as well. So, I think that's a healthy component to a relationship.
Well, for me, it's also very important to have some time alone. Oh, someone's calling. My mom's calling. We'll get back to you. Hello?
About how do we keep our relationship?
Oh, right. So for me, it's important to have some days off where I just completely stay by myself and do whatever I need to do. So I need those breaks. I can't be constantly together, because now we live together. So, and both of us, we're working from home. So we really need to set some times when each of us can be completely on their own. Yeah. This helps me to keep sane.
Yeah, I'll agree as well. Yeah.
Okay, the next question. How did you influence each other and what has changed in your lives since you've met?
Yeah, so for me, it's the introduction to minimalism and veganism. So like eating healthier, definitely. Having like being more aware of my habits. I think I could sum it up by saying that she's a really good reflection on my own habits and where I could have been doing better. I think that's what's changed for me. Improving myself.
Okay. And for me, I think I became a bit more rational because I used to be very, very emotional all the time. And now, because we talk a lot and it helps me to, like, you know, analyze my behavior more, and it helps me to analyze how other people perceive me, I start to be a bit more aware of how I actually act and what I say. So yeah, that's been a big one. All right, do you argue sometimes, and how do you deal with this?
Yes, we argue.
No, I don't think we do a lot, actually.
No, not a lot. We don't argue a lot. Well, it's a good question. When we argue, well, what we're finding out now from previous arguments is that, like, okay, number one, during the argument, when it's building up, it's best just to stop and just walk away. And I'm sure you guys have found this as well, is when you walk away, your rational mind comes back later and you realize you were either wrong or, you know, you realize the truth of the situation, I find. And when you come back and discuss it, when you go through step by step and actually be honest about how you felt, regardless of, you know, how you felt, but just was honest about it and said, I felt like this, you know, we found that a majority of our arguments was it was just a miscommunication. We actually even could have been on the same page, just arguing different levels at a different point. So
yeah, so basically we just take a break. Like as soon as we notice that we're getting emotional, we just take a break and then we try to go back and actually state how I feel, he states how he feels, and then we just work from there. And usually the problem is easily solvable. So
yeah, and I also found, like, in the beginning, this is something I learned, is not trying to defend my ideas, like not trying to argue my point to be right and defend my emotions. Like, just lay your emotions out on the table. Whether you're right or wrong, just say exactly how you feel, and that gives your partner or another person a good view on who you are and where you were at during the time of the argument. And I found that's a very quick way to just get into a better position, you know.
Yeah, I think so. What are your signs, and do you believe in astrology?
So I'm Cancer.
And I'm a Capricorn, so we are like the opposite, I think, signs.
I wouldn't know because I don't know much about astrology, to be honest.
Well, but I was born in January and you were born in July, so it is like the opposite on the spectrum.
Sure.
But
sure.
I also don't really follow anything. I don't really look into it that much because I believe that when you are following astrological things, you are kind of programming yourself to behave the way they stated you should be behaving. And I don't think it's accurate. I don't know, I just don't really like it.
Yeah, see, my take on that is if it's going to make your life better, or if it has made your life better, then take it on as your belief. Whatever your belief is. If it works for you, it works for you, that's great. I suppose from my point of view, who I've grown up around, where I've grown up, I've just basically narrowed what has seemed to work for me, kept that, and then ditched everything else, like gotten rid of everything else.
So astrology didn't help you in any way?
Well, I just hadn't looked into it, to be honest, and I have felt at this point in my life I don't really need it. I don't really need it as guidance anyway. I found good friends have actually been the best guidance for me.
Question number, I don't know which one. Did you have any misunderstandings because of difference in your culture and language? And if yes, how did you overcome it?
Yes, I think that was a problem we first encountered when we were apart and we just had the phone and I couldn't see her and Yulia didn't want to do video camera, like video call. So we were just going off our voices and we quickly came to the realization that a lot of our communication was done through like...
Non-verbal
means. Yeah. So once we established that, then we found that once we got a video call, it was okay. So there were slight differences there that we realized that was an issue.
Well, I think it was a bit easier for me since I'm speaking English and Chris doesn't speak Russian and never met anyone from Russia, at least not closely. So for you, it was probably a bit more of an unknown territory when it came to reading my behavior.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I looked kind of awkward or weird more often than Chris looked awkward to me.
I think so. I'd agree with that.
But how did we overcome it? Well, basically we just talk. We just talk about everything. And if we just agreed that whenever one of us feels like something's a bit off, we need to say it straight away. Not trying to like imagine something, make assumptions about why that person did it that way, but just ask and actually know the truth. Yeah,
I found with myself also I found I was wrong a lot of the time. So I'd assume something, and when we got into the habit of saying it straight away, it wound up that I was completely wrong.
Can you give me an example?
That one time when you went down, you were seeing a doctor for some reason, and I had this big story in my head. I had this because she was late coming back. Well, I thought she was late. And I thought she was going to see an ex down at a beach, and I had all these, I don't know, stories that really, they were just in my head. And when she came home, we spoke about it eventually. Oh, no, I remember when I came home, you were grumpy and you didn't want to talk. Yeah. And we went to sleep, but there was this awkward tension and silence. And then maybe like 20 minutes later, we decided, okay, let's talk about it. What's going on? And then he said how he felt. Yeah, I said, listen, and I explained how I felt and what I was feeling. And then when Yulia came and said, oh no, that's not it at all. It was me that was feeling strange, and I ran away from the doctors because there was a big line in a foreign country where no one's speaking English. You know, it just wasn't right. And I just wanted to have a break and like go to a cafe and just chill for a bit before driving all the way back for 2 hours on the scooter. Yeah, it was just completely different. So that was one, but I've been wrong a lot. So there's a learning curve for me, I suppose. Since you mentioned jealousy a little bit, there is one question about this. What do you feel towards each other's past relationships and like ex-boyfriends, girlfriends? In the beginning, because I found it harder to read Yulia, like I haven't met anyone like her, I think I was more sensitive to that. I was like waiting to find something wrong with the relationship, so it gave me an excuse to go back to what I was familiar with and more comfortable with. Like I was quite comfortable being alone, and I knew myself, and I was more comfortable. I was scared to go into a relationship. So when it was hard to read, I was almost expecting something bad to happen, and I was looking out for signs like this. And what was the question again? How do you feel about each other's exes? Oh, well, I'm quite comfortable now. I'm comfortable because I know her, and so. Yeah, I don't really think about them because I trust Chris 100%. So it's fine. Yeah. So the next one, what's your favorite
pastime together. Can I say pastime? Like, how do you like to spend time together?
Yeah.
I'd say talking.
I'd agree. Yeah, it's just,
Just
talking.
talking.
Yeah, and it might be on like lots of different subjects, or imagine if, or what do you think this would be like? We both seem to have that in common, which is great.
Yeah, I really love it. I just really love it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really important thing in this relationship that I might not have identified before or had with other people. And it's that same level of discussion and interest and intrigue in different areas about the future and, you know.
Yeah. And what else do we do?
What else do we do?
Well, when we don't want to talk, we just like to watch movies or watch TV series, you know, and go for walks.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were traveling, we really like to explore and just go to a completely, you know, unknown area and just drive and see and walk, you know, just explore it.
Yeah, I think like not knowing what's coming up really added to the adventure appeal to things.
Yeah, but regularly we just do
makes sense, but
regular things, just talk and walk and do nothing. Next question. What does Chris think about your blogging, and did you discuss what can stay private and what can be public?
Yeah, we brought up the public and private topic when it came to kids.
And we decided that we probably don't want our kids to be on social media.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that. But myself, I was completely supportive, and I don't mind, being part of it because I'm part of Yulia's life and she talks to you guys, and I think it's good to have some sort of transparency and know a little bit more about Yulia. So I'm quite happy about that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And next question is, what are your plans for the future? Are you going to stay in Russia, or are you planning to continue traveling?
I'd like to do some more traveling. There's some different worlds out there, and I really just have to see them.
So we are planning to go to Georgia in September.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Because we just recently, I think 2 days ago, decided that we might come back here for the New Year's and for Chris to see real Siberian winter. Yeah. Which would probably be quite exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Is Chris compared to Kиану Ривза, and like, are you related, or what's going on there? And wow. I'd say from my experience, it happens very often. And I'm not even talking about my YouTube channel, I mean the real life. When people would just comment that he looks like him, even though I don't see it as much. Yeah, for me it does happen a lot. I've had it in some like awkward situations. Like I don't like a lot of attention. That's my nature. I like to keep to myself, and it's been a strange, nice or bittersweet situation for me. I mean, it's nice, but at the same time, because I don't like this, it's awkward. I've had it on a plane before, where the stewardess said, "Hey," and all these people around, and to be honest, I was just cringing because I already knew what she was going to say, and so I mean, I get it a lot, and it's nice, but at the same time, I don't enjoy the moment. I think it's funny after though, so yeah. So thanks very much for the questions. It's been great. I hope you guys have got something from this. And if you have any further questions or feel like we didn't answer them as you thought we might, just post it below and we'll do our best to get back to you. So, I really hope you enjoyed it, and have a great week. See you next week, and bye.
See you later.